the latest. Thank you for your love and support. I appreciate you all. As Africans, there's one thing that is very important to us, and that is the unity of Africa. Africans seeing themselves as one people, and for us to be doing things together as a bloc or as a people. And that was why we've seen that we have this so-called organization called the African Union that was created in the name of uniting Africans and fighting for the interests of Africa. And that is why sometimes when these our leaders meet in their so-called summit, we hear them talking about finding African solution to the African problem. And we expect that when things have to do with the African Union will be quick in fighting, because we've seen that if we want to fight against the outside world individually, it will be very difficult. But if we have an organization like African Union, it's now the mouthpiece of the whole of Africa. But it turns out that African Union isn't doing anything, and we are not the only people that are seeing this. According to one white man, he's asking why African Union isn't pushing against Trump's agenda or threats or whatever in Africa. Like we saw what happened in the G20 when Trump decided to say that South Africa wouldn't be part of the G20 in the United States of America, that we're expecting African Union to say something. They never said anything. We've seen that a lot of things are happening, like the current one in Nigeria, that we're expecting African Union to bring out a statement refusing the invasion of the United States of America. African Union is silent. That what is the main purpose of the union? Because African Union should be a body that will stand in for all Africans. Because if a nation is being targeted by the outside world, that nation alone cannot fight. When African Union should come together to protect a nation, that is the best, because it will no longer be a particular nation that will be targeted by the West. But it has turned out that this is not the purpose of African Union. African Union is only silent when the things that they need the union to do arise. And that is not helping Africa. And that is not the reason to which the union should be created. And that is not the Pan-Africanism that we are preaching.
I guess I'm a little bit surprised by the muted reaction from other African countries about all of this stuff, whether it's South Africa getting kicked out of the G20, South Africa potentially not being included in AGOA, Trump threatening to launch invasions into Nigeria. Now they're criticizing South Sudan. The list can go on and on. For a time it was criticizing Kenya as being too close to China. And yet the African Union, quiet. African civil society, quiet. African government saying, this is too much, Mr. President. You cannot berate us like this. You criticize one, you criticize all, whatever, nothing. It's just a surprise to me, because we hear so much about Pan-Africanism. We hear so much about, Africa as one. And yet when it comes time to being in the crosshairs of the Trump administration, it just seems like, oh, okay, that's him over there. That's not me. I don't want to have anything to do with that. I don't know. It just feels so... maybe that's an unreal expectation that any country would stand up in defense of another country when it's not in their core interest, potentially, drawing the ire of this mercurial president on them. So it's just fear that keeps them away from it. But I'm surprised that the African Union, as a group that can absorb the body blows from the United States, is not issuing statements to say this is not acceptable diplomacy. And, especially on the G20 issues. Can you imagine if there's no South Africa next time at the G20, when South Africa was a major proponent of the African Union coming into the G20?
You will hear about the African Union. Yes, it exists. But what is the effect of the African Union in reality? We cannot talk about integration in the theme and not talk about the African Union. Because it is this organization that should unite us, create real integration. But we regret to see these wars that persist on the African continent, killing millions of young people. And that this organization, which has heads of state, with armies, is unable to organize itself to support certain countries. The union is not just a word. the Union, is a symbol. And we, the youth, should learn a lesson from this situation to unite, to make integration a reality. I was unpleasantly surprised when Ethiopia, which hosts the headquarters of the African Union, was experiencing a conflict. And when I saw the Prime Minister put on a military uniform and announce the closure of the university in Addis Ababa to face the threat. I did not see any action from the African Union to protect these headquarters. Most Western states saw Addis Ababa falling, packing up and leaving. Ethiopia fought, found an internal solution, and is living more or less in peace today. The children of Congo have been dying for years. Several other conflicts, such as in Sudan, exist on the continent. We would have liked to see the African Union generate the forces and all the necessary strategies to support these states so they can regain peace. For nearly 10 years, the Sahel has been the theater of international terrorism. But we see no support from these organizations to find a solution to this problem. Worse, a few days ago, a country foreign to Africa openly announced having supported and participated in a cowardly terrorist and barbaric attack against the forces of our confederation in Tinsawartan. The African Union did not utter a word to condemn this interference by a state outside of Africa in the internal affairs of our states. I would like them to hear this and therefore break their silence and take action so that the youth can believe in the African Union.
If we are talking about Pan-Africanism in our parliaments, and when we need to act as a Pan-African people, we are now divided. And we've seen that that is what is happening, like what is happening in Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso, that Donald Trump came out with an open statement, or the United States of America, threatening these people, claiming that Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso are using their resources to protect themselves, and they don't want the leaders there. We saw that African Union was so silent, but African Union could issue a statement when they claimed that there was a lot of crisis in Mali, and for that matter, the international body needs to come and help them. We saw the African Union issued a statement backing what the media houses said. So African Union is clearly not an organization that is meant for the interests of the people. We also heard at one time Captain Traore said there is something called African Union, yet it exists. But when it comes to the African Union to fight, we don't see it. Look at what is happening in Somalia. Look at what is happening in Congo. Look at what is happening in Sudan. Look at all the things that are happening in Africa. We don't see this organization acting. It's like when a country is targeted by the West, it is left unto you to fight for yourself, because African Union will never be there. African Union is only active when they have their summit, or when we see that a country decided to rise against the oppressor's rule. That is the only time you see them issuing statements, and the statement will end because they will never back the statement with action. And when they see that even that coup is in favor of the West, they remain silent. So African Union, like the youth of today, are calling you to be proactive, and you think that it is only the youth of today, and for that matter you wouldn't pay attention. Even the outside world are watching you. People know very well that you have failed. All the leaders in Africa claiming they are Pan-Africans are all zero, because these people, you will never see them coming to back their brother when the time arises that they need the help. It's like when trouble comes to my country, I am the only one that needs to fight against it, because I don't want to have problem with the international world. Everybody is just trying to be a good person in the presence of the oppressor, and this is the reason to which Africa, we are not moving forward, because everybody is thinking about the good guy thing in the presence of their masters. And if we continue to be doing this as Africans, we will never go anywhere. If we claim we are united, and that is why we have African Union, why are we not doing things in common? Look at EU. Anytime there's a problem affecting a country, we see that EU comes out issuing a statement backing or covering their nation. They come united fighting as a body and not leaving the problem on that country alone. So if African Union claims it is there to fight for Africa and to look for African solutions to the African problem, why is it that when the problem arises, that union remains silent? Now you've seen that it is not only the youth in Africa that are asking you questions, but even the people that you are trying to be good people to are also asking you. Let's stop deceiving ourselves when it comes to the African unity. We are never united and we are never Pan-Africans. If truly you, the leaders in Africa, are Pan-Africans, you would have shown us in your actions when things happen to the African. You will all come out together fighting to defend that particular person, and not for you to always remain mute when something is happening to your brother. So where is the unity that you claim that you are having as Africans? Even when you move out of the continent and you are in the presence of these people like China whatever summit, you speak individually. You don't speak like an organization. That is where you see African leaders always talking about my country, and not the continent. So where is your unity that you always preach to the world? It's not about the beautiful speeches that you give to us on paper or read to us on paper. It is about your actions. It is about your actions, and your actions will always expose you, because now everybody knows that you, the Africans, you are no longer united, and that is a reason to which anybody at all does what he or she wants to you. You must start doing things right and start uniting, and let us do things like one people that we are. No matter how much they try to separate us, if you, the leaders, do not want it to happen, it will never happen. United we stand, divided we fall, and united we keep standing forever and ever. The greatest enemy of the African is mental slavery. So let's decolonize ourselves from mental slavery. Let's keep sharing to educate our brothers and sisters. Together we make African great for ourselves and the next generations that are going to come. So that's the latest around the world and in the United States of America.